What's going on, everybody? My name is Kyle O'Grady. I am a thru hiker. I am a peak bagger. I am a huge hiking nerd. You guys don't even understand how much I literally have a hiking podcast. That's how much of a hiking nerd I am. And every single week on this podcast, I chat with other thru hikers, other peak baggers, and other hiking nerds about their experiences on the trail. This is such a great episode. My good friend Tristen Steele, and it feels weird calling him that because his trail name is 60 Cent, and that's what I really know him by. He joins the show, and it was so much fun. I met this guy on the PCT this summer. He is hilarious. He's got such a good attitude. He's just got good vibes, dude. Seriously. It was awesome. So 60 Cent, when you hear this, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to get into it here. I just want to say real quick, 5-star reviews. The show's been back up and running now for a few weeks. I hopefully I've proved to you guys that it's back for good now. So please go leave a 5-star review, no less than 5 stars on whatever your podcast app is. I would really appreciate that. It's a great way to support the show, and it's free. I also want to say a huge thank you to Rose Comics Turner for editing these episodes. I greatly appreciate all the hard work that she's putting into this, and you guys should appreciate it too. Let's get into it. Episode number 129 with my boy 60 Cent from the PCT and a lot of other fun stuff as well. I am so excited to introduce everybody to my good friend 60 Cent, aka, well, actually, I kind of got that backwards. I should have said Tristen Steele, aka 60 Cent, but when you meet somebody on the trail, their trail name kind of comes first. So 60 Cent, aka Tristen Steele. How's it going, man?
It is going great. I'm glad to be here.
I am so excited to have you. So I think we should start this episode off by just explaining how we met. So long story short, 60 Cent and I met on the PCT this year. And
we did.
We got to know each other pretty well. And let's see, when was the actual... Oh, I remember the actual first time we met.
So we met first twice, because we met once when we didn't really talk to each other, and then we met another time where we actually talked to each other.
So the time...
both stories are good.
Okay, so I can't remember. I think I remember the time that we didn't talk to each other. Was that when...
That was at the I-10 underpass, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay, this is funny because... So Flossie and I had just hiked 2 miles through this I don't even know how to describe it, like a valley kind of.
Super exposed right at the bottom of San Jacinto through this wind farm.
Oh my God, it was so windy. And we had just gotten back on trail from a night in town, and we were all ready to go. And then we start hiking through this valley, and it was the windiest shit. It was dusty. We were just I didn't even take out my camera.
Sand blasted.
It was,
the sand would cut you. It hurt. So it actually hurt.
It was awful. It was so awful. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And it was only 2 miles, but it was terrible. Then so Flossie and I, we finally got out of the wind for a second underneath the, it was the I-10, did you say?
Yeah, it's the I-10 underpass.
Yeah, which is a pretty well-known spot on the PCT because, there's a bunch of trail magic there and some couches and shit. But Flossie and I, Flossie and I, stumbled into this freaking underpass, and we were both just what the fuck was that? We were
that
both
day,
just...
Kyle actually hated hiking.
I hated hiking that day. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And so you were under there, but we didn't really talk very much.
No, I was just chilling. At this time, I was hiking with Hair Bear and Phoenix, who you had on recently.
Yeah,
Brandon. And they just left a little bit above me. We just went into town, and we got back from In-N-Out. I was just kind of chilling there, waiting to kind of start the hike into Mission Creek down there.
Yeah.
And I think that's Section C. You're just starting Section C. And I just see you guys stumble in, and
it was nuts. It was nuts, but there was also something else funny that happened under that underpass. Why don't you go ahead and tell that story?
So when I was down there, so it's super funny because this underpass just has the most random things under it. Like we were saying, it has this couch, it had some old mattresses that
oh yeah,
it was. I mean, it was just like a hoarder's dream down there. There's just like so many random things. And I eventually found like a 12-inch dildo and I put it in the hiker box. And I just remember you stumbling in there. You just got sandblasted. I mean, like, you're playing Mario World 2 on the Wii, like, for 2 miles right before you walk in here. And then you just pick up, like, you just look in the hiker box and just see that dildo. And
Flossie is the one that found it, I think. And you didn't say anything. You didn't say
not. I just kind of chuckled and was like, yes. That is... at the time, I didn't realize it was you, Kyle Hates Hiking.
Me?
I thought it was just 2 dudes.
It was 2 dudes, my friend. That is so funny. I remember Flossie pulled that out. Why didn't we film that? I was so just like fucking annoyed from the wind that I like barely filmed anything under there, which I should have because it was so cool there. But that would have been great for the video, is Flossie pulling out the freaking dildo. Like, we could have. Oh, there's so much potential there. Why didn't I film that? But that was funny because you were basically a fly on the wall of somebody discovering the dildo that you put in the hiker box.
I remember putting it in there like, I don't know, like 30 minutes before I went into town, and I was like, this is funny. It's like, I won't be able to see the result, but it's like, just putting it in there, you get a chuckle. Like, this is going to make somebody's day. And then like to actually see like the prank go into play, I don't know, it was just great.
It was so funny. And then so the day went on, and the wind wasn't quite as bad as it was in that valley, but we kind of start climbing up after the underpass, and it was still pretty damn windy. And so we're going along, and like it's so windy that like you can't really hear very well, you know, like especially if you have headphones in.
So I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about this.
He knows. So this is like, I kind of forgot that you were under the underpass until you mentioned it, but this is like what I thought of when I thought of like the first time we like interacted. So
yes,
this was probably a few hours later, and Flossie and I are going along. We're getting blown around. It's just terrible. And we come up behind 60 Cent. And normally, like, you know, when someone comes up behind you like that, you'd step over and let them pass. But you didn't hear us because you had your, number one, because you had your headphones in, and number two, because of the wind.
Yeah, so it was like a super exposed area. I was jamming. The wind was blowing. I was moseying, just lost in thought. And then you guys stumble up behind me, and you kind of, I guess, apparently you called out my name a few times.
We tried to get your attention for like a solid minute. And then
eventually, I think it was either you or Flossie like touched me on the shoulder, and I like jumped up, did a whole 180. I had the one trek and pull, and I kind of like did like a fake bluff. Like, I was so scared.
You were ready for fucking action, dude. That was so funny. After Flossie was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this guy's problem? But it's so funny. And then we got to know you, actually get to know you over the next few days, and we discovered this kid is just a riot, dude. And I say kid because, I mean, you're not a kid technically, but like, one thing I wanted to talk about is are you still 18?
I'm still 18, yes.
When's your birthday?
April 2nd.
Okay. So, oh man, you're only one day off from April 1st.
I was.
So, as we got to know 60 Cent, we find out, I mean, we could tell you were young, but you were only 18 years old, and you're out there through hiking the PCT. You're hanging out with all these like older people, I guess, for lack of a better word. And like, I don't know, I just thought that was so cool. And it's not unheard of for, you know, people that are that age to through hike, but it's definitely not very common either. Did you meet anybody else that was like through hiking that was like around your age?
I think I met between 3 and 4 like 18 to 19 year olds. So I did meet a couple, yes.
That's I just think that's so cool because like, and I've said this to you 1,000 times, 60 Cent, but for everybody listening, when I think back to when I was 18, I was like backpacking and stuff, but I wasn't really, there's no way that I could have through hiked like something long at least. Like there's absolutely no way. I was just not mature enough for that. I was not like, I just couldn't have done it. I just wasn't, my brain wasn't developed enough to even make it a possibility. So when I found out you were 18, I just thought that was like so cool because you're out there having all these experiences that like so many people your age just don't get to have at that age. So I don't know. I just thought that was like super cool. And it was also cool, at the risk of sounding like an old person. I'm only 27, but
old.
I know.
Old.
I'm old. Fucking, I'm almost 10 years freaking older than you. That's crazy. At the risk of sounding like an old person, which I think I already did there. I don't know. Like, obviously, like you were mature, for the lack of a better word, enough to like pull something like this off, but you still had that like energy of an 18-year-old, I guess. Like, you're kind of goofy and just
definitely.
Yeah, and like that was just, it was nice, honestly. It was refreshing. It was a little different, and you were just fun to be around. So I don't know. I thought that was really cool. This might be, you might not have an answer for this, honestly. This might be kind of a dumb question, but is there anything at all, any advice that you could give to someone who's like, you know, a little bit younger than like the normal age of to thru hike? Like, yeah, anything at all, maybe?
Just do it, pretty much. Like, I mean, just go out there and do like a 3-4 day hiking trip, or even just like a 2-day, like just a one-nighter. And if you like it, like you'll know pretty much right away. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm kind of contradicting myself, but the couple first times that I did like one night backpacking, I didn't actually like it that much. But
I think that's pretty normal. I was the same way. Although actually, why didn't you like it? Was it because you were making some really obvious mistakes that were making it shitty, or is it because you just took a while to enjoy it?
So I'd like it, and then I just, like, once you got super tired, I'd fall down and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. You come out of it and you're like somewhat traumatized. I mean, not really, but you just be like, whoa, that was rough. And I guess as a kid, you think, oh, that's rough, stay away. And then eventually I realized, oh, that's rough, and that's actually kind of why I like it. It's adventurous, and it's unexpected, some of the things you get to do, and I really like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know for me, I didn't like it at first because I was just like using all the wrong shit, and that was causing me a lot of pain, too much weight, shitty shoes and socks, and I feel like that's
I think blisters are like the number one like deterrent of hiking. Like,
yeah,
make sure you get the right shoes and make sure you get the right socks and everything. Like when you're learning.
Yeah, and
screw your backpack, screw your tent. That'll come.
That's true, man. That's so true. And honestly, I also feel like a part of it is too, even if you have the best shoes, that will definitely help for sure, and like good socks and stuff. But I feel like you're still gonna get some blisters, you know?
Oh no,
at the beginning,
it's undeniable.
And like you have to kind of just like, I don't know, roll with it. And hopefully it's not a long thru hike, so you can just go home after a few days and let your feet recover. But I feel like blisters are pretty much inevitable for everybody that first starts out doing, you know, longer miles and stuff. And then eventually your feet, it didn't even take that long for me. Your feet just get used to it, and then you just don't get blisters anymore. I don't know.
That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, you kind of like get calloused up.
Yeah, exactly. My feet are just fucked. The skin anyways. So let's talk about, again, you're so young. Like, there's not that many people your age that even know what thru hiking is. And the reason I'm harping on this so much is because when I was your age, I was interested in thru hiking. I knew I wanted to thru hike, but I was just a ways off from actually doing it yet. But I was backpacking. I was going out a lot, honestly. Like, I was hiking a lot. And it was always like kind of prideful. Maybe not quite as much by the time I was 18, but even when I was a little bit younger, like I always like had a lot of pride in the fact that I was way younger than anybody else out there. And I thought that like it made me so cool because all these people are like, oh, like look at this fucking high school kid doing this shit like by himself. Like, I don't know. But so how did you first, okay, we'll take this slow. How did you first just learn like what thru hiking was?
I think the first time I ever learned what thru hiking was me and my dad. We did like normal, just like night hikes, or I mean like just one night hikes of like between like, you know, like 16 to like maybe upwards of 30 miles. And I just remember him, like, it was a really big hobby for him at the time, and he eventually found this kid named Buddy Backpacker who was doing the Triple Crown with his parents, and he was like 12.
Wow.
And that was the first time I ever heard about it, and I just remember thinking, like, this kid's 12, and he's, like, just out there, like, living, and I was, like, it was just wild, because, I mean, it wasn't, like, terribly long ago, I was probably, like, 8 myself or something at that time, but I feel like just around that time, there wasn't that much content like you create that, like, really shows through hiking, and I just remember hearing about this kid, and then kind of following along with my dad, and it just kind of, like, planted a seed. It wasn't, like, the moment I heard about that, I was like, I'm going to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, like, something that kind of, like, stuck in the back of my head when me and my dad just did some of these smaller hikes.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome that, like, your dad kind of played a role in that, too.
Yes.
That's so cool, man. So when did you actually decide that you were going to try and thru hike yourself? Because it sounds like there was a little bit of time that went by between when you learned about it, obviously, if you were 8, and when you actually imagine that an 8-year-old just being, I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I mean, shit, there's 8-year-olds that have hiked long trails.
I mean, there's the dailies that hiked this year that hiked with, like,
I know, that's crazy.
5, 3-year-old or whatever. It's mind blowing. It's inspiring. It's like people think that they can't go out there and hike, and it's like there's both spectrums. There's really old people that go out there and do it, and there's really young people that go out there and do it.
Oh yeah.
There's like people with like CJ who has health conditions that still go out there and do it. And I think that's really inspiring for me.
When did you actually decide you were going to, like, do this shit? Like, when you're gonna actually go through hike?
So I think there's like a layer. So around my junior year, or between, like, my sophomore and junior year, I eventually talked to my dad, like we got to do the Appalachian Trail. I was like, we have to go do this. Like, I've decided we have to do this. And so we planned it. We kind of, like, did practice hikes. We never, like, set anything into motion, but we were building ourselves up that we could go do this. And I remember, like, I even got to the point where my junior year, I went to my counselor's office and I was like, I need to take the second half of this year off. Wow.
Like, in high school, it's so crazy.
Yes, my junior year. And they obviously kind of laughed at me, and I kind of, like, realized, like, this is my junior year. Maybe I should wait. So I finally wait. And at this time, my dad ends up getting, like, remarried, and he kind of, like, sets down, gets, like, a new house, a new car, like, stuff like that he has to, like, you know, like, responsibility. So he can't really go out here and do this other hike. And eventually I start looking into the other ones. Like, I was like, the Appalachian's cool, but I think it was there was, like, Chris Carter, like, some of those videos that came out about the PCT documentaries, and I was like, oh wow, the PCT looks just beautiful. And I was like, the Appalachian Trail looks cool, but I think I'll have to save that one for later. I have to do the PCT.
Okay.
So I think it was sometime around maybe the end of my junior year to that summer to, I don't know, the start of my senior year that I was like 100% doing this. Like,
that's so awesome.
I put it down. I started buying gear. I remember in November when the first, like, draft of permits came out, I didn't get one, and I was devastated.
Oh no! Oh shit!
This is devastated. I was like, oh no! It's just like I've been planning for this. Like, this is like what's been motivating me to get through high school. I was like, dude, once I get out, I'm doing the PCT. So I ended up getting one in January. I got one super late. It was like May, like, 21st or something.
Mm-hmm. I love how you were just in high school your senior year, and, like, all your friends around you, I'm sure, didn't even know or care about thru hiking, especially in Missouri, because 60 Cent's from Missouri, everybody. And it's like all these kids are getting ready for college, they're thinking about their careers, they're thinking about their, like, sports and all this, like, normal, like, high school shit, and you're there thinking about fucking just thru hiking. I don't know. I'll drop it here because I've been saying the same shit over and over since the start of the conversation, basically. But I just love that. I think it's so cool and so unique. And I don't know. Did you ever try to, like, talk to any of your friends about it? And, like, did anyone know about it or understand, or was it kind of just like, I'm gonna keep this to myself?
I definitely, like, talked about it roughly to some of my friends, but a lot of them just, like, they they just like didn't really get it. They were supportive, but they just didn't really get it. They're like, why would you go take 6 months out of your life to go do this? Especially after high school, they're like, you gotta go to college. You gotta.
Yeah, no,
they're all supportive. They're all supportive. They just didn't get it themselves.
Well, good for you for going against the grain. I like that. And it's not like, you know, you can always go back to school. I know you are going to be going back to school, at least the last time I talked to you about it.
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't just go do the PCT, though, first. There was something else. And so early on, when 60 Cent and I met each other, he was telling me about something called the Ouachita Trail. And I had honestly never heard of this trail before. And when you were talking about it, I was listening, but like I didn't really compartmentalize everything you were saying. I didn't really like, you know, remember it super closely to the point where I didn't even remember the name of the trail after we had our conversation about it. And little did I know I would end up going to do this trail just a few weeks after I got back from the PCT. But anyways, before we get to that, because we'll get to that. What is the Ouachita Trail, and can you just talk a little bit about like doing it before the PCT?
Absolutely. So the first reason, the reason I even went and done it in the first place was I was kind of going back to the PCT. I was buying my gear up for like a couple months preparing for this hike, and eventually I was like, I don't know what some of this gear does. I don't know how to use it. I don't know if I'm ready to go do 6 months of a hike. So I was like, I looked for something closer, and like you were saying earlier, I'm from Missouri, so there is the Ozark Trail, but that's not very good. So the next closest one is either the Ozark Highlands and the Ouachita Trail, which are both in Arkansas. Yeah. And I chose the Ouachita, so I went and did the Ouachita, and the Ouachita Trail goes from Talamina State Park in Oklahoma, and there's about 50 miles in Oklahoma, and then there's another about whatever, like 180 that goes into Arkansas, that goes up to Pinnacle Mountain State Park, which is just a little outside of Little Rock. Yeah. But you didn't just hike it. No. So I hiked it once, and I was all right. Wait. So I was hiking, and I got to about Talamina State Park. I started on the Oklahoma side, and I got to about Talamina State Park, and I was like, I do like hiking. Like I'm gonna do the PCT. I decided that right off the bat. I was like, I really like hiking, and then I was like, this like thought got in my head, and it just kind of spiraled from there. I was like, what if I did this twice? Like I don't start the PCT until sometime in May, and I was like, I have the time, because I started this in early April. So I started this April 3rd. So the day after my birthday.
Day after your birthday, nice.
I started that, so about Talamina State Park. I was like, I think I can do this.
Wait. Sorry to cut you off, but
yes,
Talamina State Park is where the trail ends in Oklahoma.
Oh, my bad. Queen Wilhelmina, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So you started at Talamina, and you were hiking, towards Arkansas. This trail goes east-west, everybody, by the way. So you were hiking eastbound, and then you got to Queen Wilhelmina State Park, and that's when you kind of started to think about yo-yoing?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. That definitely confused some people.
So, that's okay. Most people listening don't even know what this trail is, so it's okay.
I got to Queen Wilhelmina. This is like about a little over 50 miles in. And this is actually when I met my first ever other thru hiker. Like, not just like a day hiker or just a section hiker, like a genuine thru hiker. And I think that's another thing that really inspired me. We just talked in the Queen Wilhelmina, main lobby there, this is my first experience of like hiker trash, and
I love that.
I love it. Was just really cool, and I was like, I'm gonna yo-yo this, and I mentioned it to the guy that I was hiking with, which his name is Steve Hawks, and he's from Grand Rapids. But anyway, we actually ended up finishing the trail together.
Oh, nice.
Too. We didn't start that day, but a couple days later we ended up hiking together.
Nice.
And so I made it to about Lori's place, which is about halfway at the Bluebell Cafe, and I was at the Bluebell Cafe, and I was like, at this point, it wasn't just a thought anymore. It's like, I'm yo-yoing. Like I was telling Lori and like the people at the Bluebell Cafe, like, I will see you again. I was getting it down in stone. Like I wanted people to know, so I almost like was guilt tripping myself into doing it.
You gotta hold yourself to it. That's awesome.
Yes, and just like the further I got along, it just became more and more of a reality. And so I got to I finished the trail with Steve, and he had a trail angel drop me off at an RV park around there. I stayed there for 2 days, kind of healed up, and then the same trail angel dropped me back off at the trail, and I started back towards Talamina.
That's so awesome. So in total, it would have been what, around 440 miles?
Yes.
That's a lot for like pre-PCT. And so you were done. You might have just mentioned it there. I forget. So it would have been towards the end of April then, right?
Yeah, I started April 3rd and I finished April 29th.
And then what, just, a little, not even a few weeks later, basically you were on the PCT already. That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, you must have been, I'm sure you lost a little bit of your trail legs in the downtime, but for the most part, you were probably in, there's no better training for a long thru hike than that. So
it was perfect. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And I think in the time I got back, I got my wisdom teeth taken out. So.
Oh, wow. So you were a little bit lighter for the PCT too. That's great.
Exactly. Taking off that worn weight.
That's so awesome, dude. Yeah. So when 60 Cent was telling me about all this, I was kind of just like, it was cool and all, but like I said, I didn't really think about it too much, and I never thought about doing it myself. And then shortly after I got back from the PCT, Luke, the guy that was editing the videos, who's a previous guest of the show, he was saying like, yo, like we should go do this Ouachita Trail. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the trail that 60 Cent did. And then so I started asking you about it, and it was the trail. And so I was like, damn, I really wish I had paid more attention when he was talking about it, because I could have gotten a lot more information about it when I was on the PCT. But obviously I had other things to think about then. So let's talk about, before we get to our Luke and I's Ouachita thru hike,
Yes.
which 60 Cent did play a part in. Well, there's a little spoiler there. There's some funny stories too. We got to talk about the PCT a little bit more. So, like me, you didn't end up completing the entire trail.
No.
And can we just talk about that a little bit? Like how roughly, because I don't even know exactly how much I did, to be honest, but like roughly how much did you do?
I think when I added it all up, I think I did around 1,700 miles of the PCT.
No, you did more than that.
I did
actually,
it because I went to the Oregon coast.
That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
200 miles on the Oregon coast.
Okay, so. But you still did a freaking pretty good chunk of it.
Oh, yeah. And I plan on going out there and finishing this summer, so.
Oh, nice. Oh, shit, dude. So you have all of Oregon, and you got off at Stehekin, right?
I got off at Snoqualmie, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So we have a good chunk of Washington. Maybe we can try to hike together for that, because I got off at Stevens Pass, so
sweet.
In northern Washington, there's a good chunk. Okay, and I know, we'll see. That'd be sweet though. Okay,
talk about that.
There's just it's so hard. Like I don't even know where to start with the PCT stuff, because like there's just so much. I guess let's talk about the. Oh, sorry. Were you gonna say something?
The weird thing about the PCT this year is it all went south so fast.
I know.
I just remember getting near like Mount Shasta and everything just felt normal. And then within 2 days, everyone's plans were changed due to the McKinney fire. Yeah,
exactly. And then not to mention all the fires, once we were up near the border.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a bummer, dude. Can you talk a little bit about the decision you guys made to go to the Oregon Coast Trail? Because I think when you guys made that decision, we were, I don't know exactly, maybe like 3 or 4 days behind you guys or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were kind of starting to make our plans, there was a bunch of people, your whole crew and lots of other groups too, that were like, you know what, instead of, just skipping up, into Oregon, we're going to go and hike the Oregon Coast Trail and then go back to Washington after or something like that. And I remember Flossie and Brandon, and this is all happening so fast, like you just said there. And Flossie and Brandon were like seeing what you guys were doing and what other people were doing, and they were kind of like, "Oh yeah, like maybe we should go do the Oregon Coast Trail. Maybe we should do this." And I was like, "Guys, let's take a second here. Let's not make any rash decisions." And I did a little bit of research on the Oregon Coast Trail, and I don't know.
It's a different beast. It's if you're hiking the PCT, it's different.
Yeah, and like I'm sure it's a great trail. Don't get me wrong. And honestly, I'd be interested in hiking it one day. But like, I was just like, I don't know if this is the best idea. And so you guys did make that decision. Like, what went into making that decision, and what ended up happening on the Oregon Coast Trail?
Okay, so the decision is super weird about this, actually.
Okay.
Because, so I think you met Hair Bear, right?
Yeah.
So I hiked with Hair Bear and Brandon. That was the 3 people I hiked with like throughout the early desert.
Yeah.
And we all got spread up, and when I finally met Hair Bear back up in Ashland, like or not Ashland.
Shasta?
No, it was Ashland. We all got shuttled up to Ashland, and that's where we decided we were going to make our decision.
Okay.
So we got all shuttled up to Ashland. We're at this bar, and this is like the first time I saw Hair Bear in like, I mean, a large, like maybe a month or two on trail.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he tells me that he's probably going to do the Oregon Coast Trail. And he, not even probably, he was going to do the Oregon Coast Trail. And at this time I was with Heaps, Toe, and Pyro, and Cal, and they were more dead set on going, flipping up to Mount Hood and hiking from there. And I was really liking the idea of going to the coast and hiking with Hair Bear again. And we eventually, we set up a plan, and we were going to go to Shasta. And like right before we were going to Shasta, I was like, I kind of like, I don't even know how I mustered up some courage and was like, I told my trail family, like, I'm sorry guys, I'm going to the coast with Hair Bear, and I guess this will be the last time I'm seeing you guys. Oof. And we said our goodbyes, and it was actually really sad, and I was really sad. I was like, I'm leaving my trail family.
Yeah.
And then so I get a bus back down and to Ashland, and I'm like sitting at the bus stop about to go over to the coast. I can't think of the actual town. And I get a call from them, and they're like, we decided we're coming too.
We're coming with you.
And it was, that was the most euphoric feeling on the entire trail.
Bet. Yeah, definitely.
And from there, it was history. We all went and did the coast, and from what I've heard, I think it was a great decision. And they all said that it was a great decision, and I think we all had a really good time, and it was like, in a way, like a vacation away from the PCT. It was so different, and it was like relaxed. It didn't feel like a job or like as stressful anymore.
Yeah.
In a way.
How much of it did you guys do?
I think we ended up doing around 200 miles of it.
So is that what, like a little bit less than half, maybe?
Yeah, around half. Yeah.
And what ended up bringing you guys back to the PCT instead of going all the way?
So it was a lot of road walks and beach walks, which was really cool in an essence, but I think we were just ready to get back in the PCT.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just, the PCT is our baby. We wanted to go home to it. Yeah, it makes sense. And the reason why a lot of people were, I guess, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think the reason why a lot of people were doing this and, going over to the Oregon Coast Trail was because, there was just like various parts of Oregon that were closed, like in different spots. It wasn't like it was just one section that was closed that you could easily get around. It was like the south of Ashland to the, California border and beyond was closed. And then there was a 60-mile section that was closed a little bit south of Crater Lake. And then there was the Lion's Head closure that ended up opening up. But like that was a whole ordeal. Like they weren't very clear about what was going on with that. And so like I understand why people were doing this, because they were like, oh, we could go do the Oregon Coast Trail, which goes border to border, so they could still you wouldn't
hike.
have to worry about skipping around.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
If you skipped around, if you ever wanted to come back and re-hike it, you'd have to skip around again or re-hike stuff you've already hiked.
Yeah. So like I understood why people were doing that, but I was reading about the Oregon Coast Trail one night, and I saw that there was like over 100 miles of road walk, and I was just like, nah, I don't want to do that. But that's just me. So, shit, there's just so much about the PCT. I don't know, like, what were some of the other, like, I don't even want to say memorable moments, because I'm sure you have so many memories, but, like, like important moments on your PCT hike, if that makes sense. I know that's a pretty big question, very general question.
So okay. So I think one very important moment was, and you've been talking about this on your podcast lately, is the night hike with Quadzilla.
Oh yeah. Shit, we got to talk about that. So yeah, the people that have listened to the previous episodes are well aware of this. But yeah, 60 Cent was there for part of that anyways too.
Yes.
It was a really funny story. I'll let you talk. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk about really briefly kind of what led up to this.
Yes, definitely.
The last time I saw you was in Wrightwood, and I kind of left you were staying that night, and I decided to go on ahead. So I was hiking by myself for like maybe 150 miles from Wrightwood to like a little bit past the KOA or a little bit past like Agua Dulce.
Yeah.
And I eventually was like, I started night hiking at one point, and I was like, I'm tired. I laid down. But anyway, I just wanted to point that I've been like by myself for about 150 miles, and I was like getting kind of lonely, and I wanted to see my friends again. And then this night, so you guys hiked through the night, and I was just asleep on the side of the trail. And I wake up like right as the sun's coming up to you, Brandon, and Flossie like, get up. Quadzilla's behind us. We're night hiking all night.
And 60 Cent was, when he says he was asleep on the side of the trail, he was literally asleep on the side of the trail. Like he was cowboy camped, and it was just a tiny little spot that you probably didn't even have space to set up a tent on. And he was just right on the side of the trail. And like, yeah, the sun's coming up. We're almost at the top of this climb. And like we come up and you're just laying there asleep. And then you kind of like jolted awake, and you saw us. We talked for like 30 seconds, and then you were like, all right, I'm coming. And you started like hastily packing up, and we kept going. And then
that was the fastest I've ever packed up.
It was so funny. Like you went from like being dead asleep to like, okay, I'm coming. Like just like throwing your shit in your backpack. It was so funny because you were still like half asleep, and I don't know. Yeah, I totally forgot about that because that whole night was a blur. But and then you ended up sending it. What did you guys do? So like you sent it all the way to the gas station there,
right?
And then after that, Brandon kind of hung back with Flossie and I. What did you? I don't even know. Like, what did you guys? You got ahead of us.
All right, so at the gas station, we're suiting up. We're like, all right, we slept at the gas station for like 12 hours, and I think that was the most hiker trash thing I've ever done on the trail.
It was so funny because you guys made it there a little bit before. I talked about this with Brandon a little bit, but like you guys made it there a little bit before Flossie and I did. And then we rolled up, and like there's no shade there. It's not even a big parking lot. There's like no picnic tables to sit at. Like I think we all had this idea that somehow there was just going to be this lush green shaded lawn for everybody to sleep on, and that was not the case. So we rolled up, and you guys were just sprawled out in the corner of the parking lot where there was a little bit of shade, just like in the dirt and on the pavement. It was so funny.
It was so funny. If it wasn't the PCT, we would look so homeless.
I wish I took a damn picture or some video or something of you guys. It was great.
I know Quadzilla did. But anyway, so we kind of like we replanned what we were gonna do for that night, and I kind of am just joining, so I'm like I'm really excited. I didn't do the full night hike with you guys, so I had some energy.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have been a little bit less tired than everyone else.
Yes. So following that night, you guys stayed behind and slept a little bit, and then the rest of us kind of did like a split. So some of us went and did the ostrich detour, which is apparently there's like this road walk that leads you to like an ostrich like zoo, and you can like pet ostriches and stuff, which I think is pretty cool. And then the rest of us went up and did like the 500, like where the 500 mile marker stretches leading into Hikertown, and we did about 40 miles of a night hike.
Ooh! And then didn't you do another 40-mile night hike from Hikertown to Tehachapi too?
We didn't do the full 48, but we did the 40 like 1 or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what we did too. Oh my god, that shit was insane.
It was
That's savage. You guys, I know you weren't there for the first night hike, but like so everybody else in that crew did like 3 40-mile days in a row basically, right?
Yes, that's
Oh my God, that's insane.
It's nuts. I don't know how they do it.
I know that's badass, dude. That's badass. It's so crazy.
And it was a weird jump for like they didn't go from like maybe like 35s to 40s. They were going from like 25s to 40s.
I know. It was so savage. But you guys just had such a good group with like just like so much camaraderie, and like I almost couldn't handle it like on that night hike like before you joined, because like everyone was, I don't know, like I've always been the person, I'm not like anti-social or like anything like that, but in bigger groups of people I tend to like kind of get a little bit bugged out. And so like this is so bad, but like yeah, everyone was just like so hyped and like all this camaraderie, and I just was like a little bit overwhelmed by it, honestly. But you guys had such a good crew, man. You guys had such a good crew.
I miss that crew. I hope we all get to hike together again sometime soon.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Yeah, so going forward from there, what was it like going through the Sierras for you guys? I feel like we haven't really talked about that too much, because you were ahead of us throughout the entire Sierras and most of the trail after this, for that matter.
Yeah. So the Sierras, my group likes to, like, I think we were saying we felt like we were going so slow. And I guess we just kind of slowed down to really appreciate it.
I don't think you slowed down that much though.
No, I think we did. I really think we did. Yeah.
Damn. Well, I mean, I guess you weren't doing 40s and stuff. I still feel like I remember seeing on Toe's story though that you guys did like some 30-mile days or something.
So I don't want to say slowed down. I think I think the better way to phrase this is we did weird mileage of days.
Okay.
Some days we would do like 5 to 10 miles, and then the next day we'd do like 30, 35 miles in the Sierras. And just because like we did this such weird pattern of hiking, it was just I don't know. It threw up our hike, and we had to like almost like recover from that once we got up to like Mammoth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. What was your favorite part in the Sierras?
In the Sierras, I really liked Whitney. I really liked Whitney, because going into Whitney, there was like this big snowstorm that happened, and
I forgot about this. Yeah, sorry. I want to hear the story.
Yeah, so going into Whitney, there's that big snowstorm that happened, and I ended up actually throwing away my dry bag at Kennedy Meadows South.
Oh, what, I was like, dude? Come on.
It had like a small tear in it, and I was like, and I just threw it away. I was like, I guess I won't need it. Like, you know, it doesn't rain on the PCT, and then the one time it does, it was like snow, sleet, and all my gear got soaked. I'm camping at the bottom of like Whitney and like the Crabtree. I think it was like Crabtree or something.
Yeah, area. Something like that.
And I just didn't sleep that night. I was so cold. I was so wet, and I ended up. And during this time, I ended up getting separated from my group again because of the snowstorm. So I ended up hiking Whitney by myself.
Oh, so you were a little bit ahead of them, right? Because they turned around or some shit. Didn't
they went. I can't think of that town, but they went to that town in between Kennedy Meadows North and like Kearsarge.
Lone Pine.
Lone Pine. Yeah. And they ended up backtracking into that, and I pushed on forward, and like I was saying, all my gear got soaked, and I ended up climbing Whitney the next day, like against every bone in my body.
Oof.
Like I just didn't want to. I was like, what if I just go back to the trail and hike it? And I was like, this is Mount Whitney. I'll regret it if I don't. I got up and did it, and if you look at my pictures, I did it in my rain pants and my rain jacket, because nothing else I had was warm, and it was all wet and soaked.
Damn.
So luckily it wasn't like, even though the whole mountain was covered in snow, it wasn't cold like I was expecting it to be.
Okay. Well, shit. I'm glad you're able to. That's such a 60-cent thing. Yeah, I know. I remember we got lucky as shit because we were only like, I think 2 days behind you guys at this point. And so we were down at lower elevations during that storm. So we got the storm, but it was all just rain for us. It was actually when we were in Kennedy Meadows South.
Okay. So
it worked out pretty well actually, because we were mostly just inside drinking beer. But yeah, so you guys were up at elevation when that happened, which makes sense. And so anyways, we saw I think it was Big Toe's story on Instagram and talking about how they like backtracked and bailed. And I was like, damn, that's not like them. Like that must have been pretty bad.
It got really cold. I remember one time or during that I got scared that my hands weren't gonna work again because I didn't have gloves. Dude. And I was like I don't know, it was just to keep my mind occupied, but I was like running through like, what if I'd never been able to use my hands again?
Oh my god,
they were so cold.
Oh my god, dude, that's fucking brutal. Shit. I'm sure there's so much more to talk about on the PCT, so I'll have to have you back on at some point. But I want to save a few minutes here to talk about the Ouachita Trail. Not your Ouachita Trail through hike this time, but Luke and I's Ouachita through hike, because this is really funny. So when Luke and I decided to go hike this trail, it was pretty last minute, and so I was like hastily putting together all my gear and all the plans. We had to do a lot of planning because of the water situation. And by the way, everybody, there's going to be an episode coming out where Luke and I talk all about this hike very shortly. I'm waiting to finish the video, and then I'm going to put the two out like around the same time, but there'll be more details about it then. But anyway, so I was just doing like all this planning, getting everything ready pretty last minute. And so while I was doing that, I was also trying to make videos. Like everything was just crazy. And so I sent you a text or a DM on Instagram.
Yes.
Just like letting you know that we were going to go do this and talking a little bit about it. And I was like, oh, like, you know, you should like try to come meet us or whatever. Or I just like, you know, threw out the idea.
That was exactly it.
And so, and then I kind of forgot about it until I think it was the day that the night that we started actually. And while we were in the car ride, I'm pretty sure you sent me another message and you were just like, hey, like, are you guys still going or whatever? And I was like, oh shit, I fucking forgot to talk about it more with him. And I was like, yeah, we're starting like today or something like that. And so over the course of the next few days, we kind of just every now and again, we would just like check in, and I would just like kind of let 60 Cent know where we were at. And you know, and at one point I told you, so this is probably about halfway through the trail, I told you, I was like, oh, yes, we're going to be at the Bluebell Cafe on Thursday or whatever the day was. And then, you replied. Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember exactly what I said. And I think I said something like, I'll let you know if I'm coming, or all right, that sounds good. Or
yeah,
something like
it was something like that. Yeah. Exactly.
And I did not let you know that was coming.
So like he replied, like he acknowledged that we were going to be there, but like he wasn't like, okay, I'll meet you here at this time, or like, okay, I'm coming. Like it was nothing like that. No freaking like plans made. And so the next day, Luke and I get to the road, and we had called a shuttle to take us to that cafe. And literally like a minute after we got to the road, a car pulls over, and we thought it was the shuttle at first, and then the window rolls down and it's fucking 60 Cent. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, you didn't even tell me. Like I had no idea he was gonna be. And the timing was just so funny because it was literally like a minute after we got to the road too. Like that's just how it worked out. And so 60 Cent was just there. And so Luke and I had all these plans. We were gonna take the shuttle, and then we were gonna hitchhike into town from there, and we had a hotel booked, and 60 Cent shows up, and then we're like, oh, it's fucking on. Now we have a car. Like we can go anywhere. We can do all this stuff. It was so fun. And so we ended up saying like, screw the hotel. And we drove like an hour at least off trail. And because, you know, we're in rural Arkansas here. There's not that many towns, and we were looking for Airbnbs. And so we found this one Airbnb. It was the cheapest one that was within reason, you know, to drive to. And we found this Airbnb, and I'm looking at pictures of it, and I'm like, this is a gas station. I was like, there's a pump out front. Like it's a gas station. I was like,
it was a gas station.
I was like,
a straight up gas
this
station.
is bizarre. I remember I turned to you guys. I was like, should we book this? Like something seems weird about this. Like, I was like, are we going to end up staying in the back of like a gas station? I was like, what is this? But it, like I said, it was just the best option.
I remember like in the photos, there's like an industrial kitchen. Like,
yeah, the kitchen, dude. There was like, yeah, like a industrial kitchen. And we're like, what the fuck? Like, But we were like, all right, I guess we'll do it. And so we roll up to this Airbnb, and it was a gas station that had been closed and turned into an Airbnb, and it was the sickest shit. It was we walk in, there was like refrigerators with soda still in the fridges, like there was a counter like where the gas station counter would be, this kitchen, but it was like converted into an Airbnb. So there was beds, there was like a TV, there was like this sick bathroom, this sick shower. It was incredible. I was like, what is this? Like, what? How did we find this?
It was very, very sweet.
It was so sick.
They had like the guitar on the wall. They had like the ring toss game.
Yeah, like all this shit. And like,
it was like a dream college basement.
Yeah, no, it was so
as
sick.
An Airbnb.
It was so sick. And like we were talking with the guy that owns it for a while. Like he was really chill. And like, it's so funny because you walk out the door and the like the pumps are still there, like like, you know how at a gas station there's like the building where you like go in and pay for shit, but then there's like the pumps and there's like the roof over the pumps, like that was still there. Like we just parked right next to that. Like it was just like it was so sick. And so we kind of just took the rest of the day off, and then we moseyed our way back to the trail. And so 60 Cent dropped us off, and then there was another road maybe like a day and a half further east. And so the plan was he dropped us off, and then we were going to keep hiking, and then he was going to drive to that other road up ahead of us, and then he was going to hike west and then just like meet us on the trail, and then turn around and hike back out with us. And so that's kind of what happened. What happened?
I ended up stopping at this Big Bear shelter, and we ended up just staying there for a day.
Yeah, so like 60 Cent, the night he dropped us off, we knew we weren't going to see him. But then the next day, we thought we were going to run into him at some point, and then he would hike with us. But we didn't run into him at all. And as the day went on, we were like, okay, he must have just stopped at this shelter. And so you did hike in the night that you dropped us off. And then the next day, instead of hiking to, intercept us, you just stayed at the shelter all day.
I stayed at the shelter. I made it roomy. I made it all home.
Which is, it was honestly one of the nicest campsites on the whole trail. So I don't blame you at all in that regard.
Yes. I think I just ended up sleeping a lot. That night I ended up sleeping with another dude that was there. that sounded weird. Don't take that wrong. Don't take that wrong.
No, it's okay. There was another hiker that was there that night. Yeah. And so, okay. So the next day we roll into the shelter in the evening, and 60 Cent's there waiting for us. Dude, this was probably the most fun night of the whole trail for me. I think Luke what's that?
I have to agree as well. It was a blast.
It was awesome. And so we get there, and there was two like noteworthy things from this night that I remember. The first was the zip chip.
The zip chip.
So we're playing with the zip chip. If you guys don't know what the zip chip is, it was in a few of the PCT videos. It was actually Brandon's thing. It's basically a tiny, like, I don't even know what the material is, like silicone. Yeah, silicone, like frisbee, but it's like less than the size of like a hockey puck. It's very small, and it's super lightweight, so it's like the perfect like backpacking like toy, because and you can quite literally zip this thing. Like, it flies. It's so fun to throw around, and it's silicone, so like you can just it can run into trees and rocks and all this stuff, and it's not going to break or anything. And so it's perfect for backpacking. And so I brought one, and like we're all kind of playing with it. And the most fun thing about the zip chip when it comes to backpacking is you can get like pretty creative with your throws. So instead of just standing, pretty close to each other and playing toss, you can like, go really far apart. You can like try to throw it between trees and like curve it and like do all these like obstacles and like these crazy shots. And so why don't you pick it up from here, 60, and talk about how you went like across the river and we were doing this shit.
Yeah. So the shelter is like, so there's a shelter, and right in front of the shelter there's this like creek, and then on the other side of this creek there's like this cliff, and the trail ends up winding back over there. So I walk up the trail, and I kind of go to the other side of this creek, and Kyle's down there at the shelter, and we're like, the idea was cliff to shelter, a zip chip toss.
It's like a very steep drop off between the creek, between the shelter where I was, the creek, and then where 60 Cent was on the other side of the trail.
Yes, and we ended up we tossed it back and forth a couple times, and we got relatively really close.
You threw it to me like this. I wish there is video of it. It'll be in the video when it comes out, but I wish I could show it right now because like this was a insane shot. Like this was like not easy at all. And there was one time you threw it to me. We actually most of the time you can't even get it through the trees. So like most of the time it was thrown and then it would just hit a tree and it wouldn't even make it to me. But you actually made it to me one time. It was right there and I freaking I just didn't catch it. Oh fuck. I'm still so upset about this. It's on video. It's funny. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so we ended up tossing this back and forth a couple times. And you throw it back up one time and I think I go and like reach for it and grab it. And like you said, it's like it's like a steep like run off, and it's like I start sliding down this when I try to grab this the zip chip.
So you were like going down. You were like, I'm gonna go get it, and I was like, oh god, because I could see this whole wall right in front of me. I could see you at the top. I was like, please be careful. And so you're going down, and then you just start sliding
fast. It was It was controlled, but it was fast.
I don't know. And towards the bottom, it didn't really look that controlled.
I hit the ground, but I missed the zip chip. That was the saddest part of it all. I had to climb back up afterwards and get the zip chip.
It was kind of sketchy for a minute. Like you were like trying to reach for some branches too to like stop yourself, and like you missed those and you just went down. But it was okay, thankfully. But it could have been pretty bad. It was kind of scary for a second. It was. And then it quickly became one of the funnier things that happened. But I don't know. We never ended up getting that toss. I should have caught it.
We didn't.
Damn it.
We'll have to go back.
I know. Maybe we will. Jeez. And then the other noteworthy thing that happened that night was Luke and I the night before had started to play with the long exposures on our cameras. I've carried my camera for so many miles, thousands of miles, and I never played around with this. But, you know, basic of photography, if you leave the shutter open, then if it's dark and there's like a random light source, then you move the light source, you can kind of like draw things on the picture. And so we start playing with these. Oh, and by the way, I edited some of the photos of us sitting in the shelter, and they're fucking sweet. I got to send those to you.
Yes.
They're so sick. I got a pretty good one of you. But anyway, so now it's dark and we're just playing with the long exposure on the camera. And so like we spent like an hour doing this. We took some really cool shots of us like sitting in the shelter, like I just said, but then we were also like drawing like fucking dicks and shit with our headlamps. And it was so funny, dude. We got the people listening are probably like, these idiots, but it was hilarious. There'll be some pictures of that in the video too. I'll post some of them on, maybe not the dick ones, but I don't know. Maybe I'll post some of this on Instagram too. It was so funny. It was just a great night. It was a super great night. Me and Luke ended up playing Mancala with some random stones. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I was kind of tapping out at that point.
Yeah. But dude, drawing those pictures, dude.
It was so fun. We kept ourselves entertained in the shelter for a long time. All right, 60. So we're getting towards the end of the episode now, and we've already told a bunch of awesome stories, but there's one more like pretty funny story. This one going back to the PCT. That has to be the end of the episode story. So with that said, take it away, my friend.
Okay. So the story I want to tell is going into Big Bear, which is like what we were saying is about mile 300 on the trail.
Yep.
And we were going into this, and there's this cafe called Big Bear Cafe, or like Big Bear Manor, or something like that. And I hear about this challenge.
Is it Grizzly Manor?
I think it might be Grizzly Manor. Yes.
Grizzly Manor. All right, keep telling the story. I'm gonna Google it real quick just to confirm.
And I just hear about this challenge about eating a lot of pancakes. At this point, I don't know how much.
Yeah, it is. It is big or Grizzly Manor. Sorry,
Grizzly Manor. If you're do the PCT, definitely go there. I wouldn't recommend it more. Do the challenge. This is why, because so I hear about this challenge, pancakes, and eventually we all get to this cafe, and I'm kind of debating it, and I'm like, no, we're doing this. And I tell the waitress we're doing the pancake challenge, and the challenge is 6 pounds of pancakes. So pound pancake. There's 6 pancakes, 6 pounds, pound each, and you get an hour to eat it. And I mean, I've never been to a restaurant where something was so fun. Like, they were just very interactive, and they made sure not just the person that was eating was having. They just made the whole energy of the whole place just really, really fun. And
yeah, it was sick.
What I enjoyed the most about it. It was really sick. And so I start eating these pancakes after they give them out, and got an hour, and I get 1 pancake done in a reasonable time. I get 2 pancakes done in a reasonable time, but that 3rd pancake, I couldn't get it down, and I was getting full, I was getting bloated, and my stomach started hurting. I drank a whole pitcher of water. I looked around, and I realized I wasn't going to make it, but I promised the people around me I wasn't going to stop until I puked. I wanted to do this for them. I promised I would. So I just kept eating. And I think the time ended up like stopping, and I just kept eating. I was like, I'm going to eat as much as I can. I think I ended up finishing around 3 pancakes, and then I eventually had to go outside and puke.
A man of his word right there, everybody. I admire that so much. You told the people you weren't going to stop until you puked, which is that's a tall burden, and you did it.
A challenge is meant to be challenged. You gotta try it.
Did you ever look at a pancake the same way again after this?
I don't even think I've eaten pancakes since. Not necessarily out of a grudge against it, but I just haven't, and I don't know if pancakes of large proportions scare me now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's so funny. Flossie and I rolled up to the cafe when you were like probably in the middle of the 3rd pancake, because at that point you were already like, it was looking grim, but that was like the first thing everyone said when we walked in was like, oh, he's doing the pancake challenge, and you're just like sitting there just like not saying anything, just like, ugh. Like it was pretty funny.
It was sweet. And a thing that was really cool about it is that Trail Angel ended up paying for everybody at my like all the 3 hikers in there for their dinner, and it was lunch or whatever.
Yeah, lunch, early breakfast.
Yeah,
it was super funny.
Trail Angels are sweet.
Yeah, man. All right, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. This was like so much fun. This is awesome, dude. I don't know. Do you want to like? Is there anything you want to plug, like where people can go follow you or anything like that? Like you don't have to if you don't want to. Some people don't care about that stuff, but I thought I'd give you the chance if you want to.
Sure. My Instagram is Tristen Steele 060. Or you could just probably type in 60. Or Tristen Steele. All of those will probably get you there.
Yeah.
It's me next to the picture of the Ouachita Trail.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Any parting words?
Thank you, Kyle. I mean, it's videos that you make that inspire other people like me to go out there and hike, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for listening, everybody. And I'll see you guys, or I guess I won't see you. I will hear you guys. I guess I won't hear you either. You will hear me next week. See you later. Take care.